Hello and welcome to the SLC Sunday Experience. I'm Paula Mandela and this is Soul Light Connection, and we want you to know you're in the right place at the right time. Right, Ann?
That's right, just where you were meant to be. And we want you to sing along with us because we know and you know your soul is welcome here. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. In the right place, I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. Oh my soul is welcome here. Oh my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome here. Your soul is welcome. Our soul is welcome here. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. Oh my soul is welcome here. Oh my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome. Oh my soul is welcome. Oh my soul is welcome. Oh my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome. I'm getting the message. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome here. Put your hands together. My soul is welcome here. Tell them about it, Lorene. My soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome. My soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome
Whoa! Good morning and welcome to the Spiritual Life Center Experience. Good to see you all here today, and good to see you, Reverend Deborah, way over there.
Good morning, Reverend Jay. We greet you this morning in the name of all that is good, all that is holy, and all that is sacred. And in the warm and loving energy of this ministry, community, Spiritual Life Center. Spiritual Life Center honors all people worshiping in mosques, temples, churches, stone circles, and the beautiful, beautiful temples of nature, because we know there is no space that God does not grace. And if you're with us for the very first time today, online or on site, we especially want to welcome you because we know that you are not here by accident. Every one of us is here by
Divine appointment.
And we're just excited to be together again. And we are also excited when you silence your electronic devices and when you wear your mask properly, and please refrain from flash photography. That's a new one, I'm getting used to saying that. Please refrain from flash photography during the service.
Well, let's meet our appointment with the presence of pure spirit as we commune with it in prayer now. We recognize that prayer is almost like our spiritual hygiene. It helps us release and let go of anything that's stopping or hindering our connection with the presence we call God, that is love itself. And as we remove any barriers from us in this presence in our own consciousness, recognizing that it's always there for us, and we only have to accept it. When we remove those barriers in our own minds, then we know that we are expressing the highest and best of who we are. And who we are expressions of the Spirit of the living God. We are children of the Most High. And we come here to be the representation of this presence in our world. And as we do, we can say without a doubt that when you see me, when you see us, you see that same presence from which we have come. And within that presence, all the qualities of peace and love and joy and wisdom and healing and health and wholeness and all that is good and perfect, we are that representation in this world. For the Spirit of living God needs us to be that presence, to be that light. And as we do our part, everyone around us that crosses our path is lifted up because we are all one in the Spirit. For this and so much more, as we radiate the all good, we are thankful and grateful. Amen. Well, we take this time to reaffirm and remember our purpose and mission here at Spiritual Life Center. And we invite you to affirm it together. To transform lives as we love, serve, and remember. And we do so as we carry out these 5 basic universal principles that really amplify the basics of our teachings. And I invite you again to affirm them with me. God is absolute good and everywhere present. People are inherently good. Thoughts create our experiences. Prayer and meditation are how we connect with God. We must take action. Well, each year, between the dates of January 3rd and April 3rd, we engage in a program with others around the world entitled A Season for Nonviolence. And the purpose of that is to create an awareness of nonviolent principles and practices as a way to heal, to transform, and empower not only our individual lives, but also our community and our world. And we seek to demonstrate that every individual can move the world in the direction of peace as we practice daily nonviolence choices and take daily nonviolent actions. And as we do, we can imagine, we can affirm, we can envision a community and a world that honors the dignity and worth of every human being. So this season of nonviolence takes place, as I said, between the 30th of January and April 14th. And it's an international, educational, media, as well as grassroots campaign dedicated to demonstrate that nonviolence is a powerful way to heal, transform, and empower ourselves. And it's inspired by the anniversaries of the memorials of Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. And this international event also honors their vision for an empowered and nonviolent and peaceful world. And each week during this time of A Season for Nonviolence, we have a reading from one of our congregants or Friends of Unity. And today our reading is going to be with Patty Peters, and she's going to share her experience and use and application of these principles in her life. Welcome, Patty Peters.
First, I'm going to read what I was given to read, and then I'll tell you my impression on that. Today, I act in kind and loving ways. When I behold the world through the eyes of God, I am awestruck by the beauty of every human being. Today, I remember that we are all God's precious children and see beyond appearances. Today, it's easy for me to be kind and share the profound love of God with others. I may offer a kind word, pick up a newspaper for a neighbor, or open the door for a stranger. I consciously choose to turn the other cheek to people who act in ways which are hurtful to me. When I act in kind and loving ways, I do my part to make the world a peaceful and beautiful place. Today, I find new ways to be kind and loving to all humankind. And here's my take on this. When I Googled kindness, I found this quote from Aristotle. Helpfulness towards someone in need, not in return for anything, nor for the advantage of the helper, but for the person helped. Well, I always thought that I was kind to friends and family. Basically, pretty easy. Then I grew a little bit spiritually and saw that my method was flawed. And I learned that being kind and loving doesn't always have to be a grand gesture, but any small act of kindness works. My day has seriously been uplifted by a kind smile or a kind gesture, and I am always quick to give one. Helping someone in need is the best feeling in the world, even if it's just listening, because all of us want to be heard. Every interaction we have brings the opportunity to be kind and compassionate and loving. I wish I could stand here and say that I sit and sing Kumbaya with all I meet, but of course that wouldn't be true. But I try to really pay attention to what is happening, and if I feel the tiger coming out, I can take a breath and breathe God in. That allows me to respond from my divine self, which is my true nature. I find that when I don't respond from my divinity, I always regret it. My divine self is always there. I just need a reminder at times. On an episode of Shark Tank I saw yesterday, which kind of blew me away because I had already had this prepared. Anyway, I saw the founder and majority owner of the Kind Company, which produces Kind bars. He told us that his dad was a Holocaust survivor who was rescued by American soldiers. He said that his dad didn't spare any details of his time in this concentration camp, but that he also shared his vision of seeing the world through a prism of appreciation of the kindness of others that helped him to survive. It is from this teaching that Daniel learned of kindness and in turn named his company Kind. I think that this story about the amazing man embodies just what Martin Luther King Jr. was trying to teach the world. In closing, a quote from Mother Teresa: "Kind words can be short and easy to say, but their echoes are truly endless."
Thank you, Patty.
And thank you for being so kind as to do that for us today, Patty. All right, this Tuesday, February 2nd, Monica Hart is offering a 4-week class. It is on Zoom. It is called Introduction to Affirmative Prayer. It's based on the book, How to Pray Without Talking to God. And as we know, a few people have a little issue with the word God. So this will come in really handy. What it really is it's teaching us how to pray the way we pray in unity. And you will learn to develop a deeper spiritual practice by reforming the words of traditional prayers and cultivating a habit of daily prayer and meditation, which will take your prayer life to a next level. Now, this class is required for people who want to become a chaplain, but everyone is invited to come to the class. It is open for everyone. You can register for the class online or at the hub.
Thank you. I know it's going to be a very good class, very enlightening and helping us and evolve our own consciousness. Well, we're here at SLC to consider ourselves, and we are what we call a spiritual cooperative. And if you want to find out more what that may mean, because you may be asking that question, well, we're going to have a business meeting, and we want you to attend. And that's going to take place next Sunday, February the 6th. It's going to start at 1 p.m., and we're going to gather not only on site, but also online, so you can check in on Zoom. So look at our website. It'll have the link, I believe, for that. And we're going to share that information with you about our community. We'll also explain the Board of Trustees nominating team, and then elect two governing members to that team. And then we're also going to share Spiritual Life Center's end-of-year financial status. We'll also explain the membership renewal commitments, as well as continuing members, as well as share opportunity for those who would like to become members of our community. So questions, of course, are always welcome and encouraged, and you're invited to be part of that meeting next Sunday between 1 and 2:30. So we'll start on time, we'll end on time, and we look forward to your presence on Zoom or in real life.
Both ways.
Okay, I
yes.
guess Zoom is real life for us many times. So.
It is now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we all know how music blesses and uplifts our spiritual community, and SLC is proud to partner with Musical Partners in Healthcare. It's an organization that brings music into medical and hospice settings. Ann Roach and Sally Sion are certified music MPIH practitioners. Laree Shiflett is training for this certification, and we're proud to present Notes and Jokes. It's an on-site and online benefit concert on Friday, February 18th from 7 to 9 p.m.
Yeah.
It's intended to raise awareness and needed funds for this music ministry, and the fun musical review will include Anne, Sally, Laree, and some other MPIH musicians. And I was saying at 9 o'clock, of course, just the humor of Sally is going to make it worth coming. Yeah. But we know it's going to sell out, and the best experience, of course, will be here in person. So go online and get your ticket today, and I believe you already have yours.
Yes, I did. I got mine because I woke up in a cold sweat and thought, man, I hadn't gotten my ticket. I need to go get it right now because I know I don't want to not miss this. Don't want to miss this. Yes.
And speaking of music, next week the music will go live. Paula Mandela and the music team will be back up here on the platform. And remember that the way to find out all the things that are happening at SLC are here on site, going out and looking at the bulletin board and talking to people at the hub. And of course, everything you ever wanted to know about SLC is on our website, slcworld.org.
Well, at this time, if there are any chaplains and board members are here, I know we do have a couple of board members that are present, and we invite them to stand. And we do have at least one chaplain here this morning. Oh, yes, so thank you. And we invite you to, the chaplains do a very important job. They hold the high watch, the consciousness, the energy field for us, and they're available to pray with you right after the service here in the court, here in the sanctuary or in the courtyard. So thank you for your service. And our board members do the very important work of holding consciousness as well, which is maybe the most important thing we all can do. And they bring their time and their talent and their skill sets to help us move forward, and particularly moving through our interesting times that we're going through. So we thank them for their work that they are giving to our community. So thank you, board members. They're available to answer questions that you may have as well, if you have some for them today.
And we love to welcome our newcomers. So in a moment, we will ask you to raise your hand. But first, we want you to know there's many ways to become connected here at SLC. And one of the ways to do that is to fill out our welcome card. Now, that welcome card is available online. You can go to our website and click on it, fill out the card, submit it, and then we will get back to you. If you're here on site, raise your hand. We will give you the cards. You can fill it out, take it out to the welcome table, and we have a wonderful welcome and a really loving gift for you.
So anyone here that's here for the very first time today? Any first time? Oh, yeah, the couple in the back. Thank you so much for your presence here today. We appreciate you and thank you and affirm you as you move forward in your spiritual growth and unfoldment. And we bless you and appreciate you, and we look forward to being of some service to you in any way that we can. And now, I'd just like everyone else that is here, and we've been telling the folks that have been coming during these interesting times, we've been calling them our dependables. So I just invite you to turn to a friend, a neighbor, and greet them in a way that feels comfortable for you, and say, thank you for being here. You're a dependable expression of the Spirit of God.
bringing joy and peace. Like sunlight dances on water, like tree bends in the breeze. I'll give my life beautifully. Bringing joy and peace.
And so as we take a moment to shift our gears a little bit and start to look inward, let us embody the words of our vision statement together. Spiritual Lives Center is a loving, vibrant family that welcomes home all people and accepts everyone, no exceptions. Weaving ancient spiritual traditions with emerging wisdom, we cultivate a spiritual deepening with the divine, each other, and our planet.
Create in me a new heart. Create in me new life. Create in me a new heart. Create in me a new life. May my life be a prayer. May my life be a prayer. Create in me a new life. Create in me a new heart. Oh, create in me a new heart. Create in me a new life. And may my life be a prayer. Oh, may my life be a prayer. Create in me a new heart. Create in me a new life. Create in me a new heart. Create in me a new life. Create in me a new heart.
So as we move into this time of meditation and inner contemplation, take a deep breath and so slowly exhale. In the next cycle of breaths, allow your body to relax. Drop your shoulders. Relax your eyelids. Take another deep breath and let it go. And allow your consciousness to float up and away into a light daydream. You are on a high cliff overlooking the ocean. You can hear the waves crashing into the rocks below. The blue ocean, touched by the sun, spreads out before you. Billowy white clouds dot the pure blue of the sky above. A salty breeze ruffles your hair, caresses your face. Lazy seabirds play on the wind, coast in the sunlight, and they seem so free. Free of the earth, free of the shore, free of the water. You imagine what it is like to fly, to float, to be so free from earthly restraints. And so you open your arms and throw your head back, pretending with all your might that you have wings. And then you have them. You have wings. And as you carefully move them up and around, you lift off of the ground just a little bit. And gently, slowly, you rise up into the air. And with just a little bit of experimentation, you figure out how to use those wings. You fly out over the ocean, skimming the water, and then gathering speed, you fly high into the sky, going higher and higher. And now you level off and allow the wind to take you. And you float and drift with the wind, just as if you were in the water, floating and drifting. But here, soaring high above the earth, dancing with the sun and sky, you are light and free and clear. From this altitude, you have a different perspective. And you realize that in a real sense, you do have wings. And you can rise above earthly restrictions. You can float whenever you want. With this knowing, you feel even freer. You bask in joy and gratitude and confidence as you float into the silence. Taking a breath, you flap your wings and joyfully fly back towards the cliff where you began. And then you fly on down to the shore. The sun is setting, sending rays of red, gold, and pink across the sky. And you gently settle down and fold your wings against your body. As you take another breath, absorb the wings into your body, knowing that they are within you and you can use them whenever you desire. And now, as you breathe, to return to your physical body, receive this blessing. Oh, my beloved, you are free to be yourself. To be yourself is exactly why you came to earth. And when you are courageous and allow yourself, your true self, to emerge, it is then that you are free. It is then that you can float in the ethers, in the world, and in your life. Remember this always.
shore. Let go of the shore. Let go of the shore.
I get this bask in that wonderful video that Lurie created just for you all today. What a great talent that she is. And that's the song by Karen Drucker that Lurie had adopted as her own, really. Let go of the shore, or as I like to say, let go and let flow, let the Spirit flow. I believe that's how grace works. I think it happens when we flow with the current of life. And of course, that requires that we have absolute faith in the force, or what we also call God, the good. But the reality is, oftentimes, rather than have full trust in this presence, many times we rely on our own human might, our own human power and know-how, and end up going against the flow. I recall when I lived in Missouri, nice place, nice people, but the weather was very interesting. There would be some days like in between seasons, because they had, 4 full seasons, but in between seasons, you may have a particular day where you would experience all seasons in that same day. Morning be nice and cool and like the fall, and then it feels like spring, and then the middle of the day might feel like summer, and then the next thing you know, it's snowing by the end of the day. And this was one of those days. It just suddenly went cold. And one of the most challenging things I had in driving there was driving on what they call black ice. That's when it's like just a thin layer of ice. You can't really see it. There might have been just enough mist coming down to create ice, and it's slightly below freezing, and it is treacherous to drive on. And this is one of the days I was heading home, and the black ice just suddenly came on the street. And we were coming down a hill, and I could see ahead of me maybe a dozen cars, and they would hit a particular spot on the hill, and everybody's driving 3 to 5 miles an hour, as slow as a car can go. But when it hit this particular spot, everybody's trying to steer out of it, negotiate out of it, and every single one of them ended up sliding into the ditch. So it came to my time to get to that particular point in the road. And I said, well, what am I going to do? It didn't seem like anything was working for all those other people when they were trying to navigate through it. So I just let go of the steering wheel. I just let it go. I figured, well, it can't be any worse than what they're going through. And you know what? My car just went straight down the hill, and I saw everybody else sliding off the road, and I said, hey, I know something. I went with the flow. When we go against the flow, sometimes we run into resistance. We create useless and unnecessary suffering. I was watching some of the Unity Worldwide Ministries Summit that was online last week. I didn't catch all of it. It was over 3 days, 2 or 3 days. But there was one part of it that kind of triggered something in my own mind. And I realized that sometimes we come to places like a Spiritual Life Center and other similar places because we're turned off for a multitude of reasons by traditional religions that we may have grown up in. And there's some sort of resistance and sometimes a backlash that really doesn't serve us because we often throw out the baby with the bathwater. I know I did that for many years. But sometimes there's some good stuff there that we may have overlooked. As I mentioned last week, take the Bible for instance. Many of us have been beaten up maybe by the Bible as we came through life or one way or another. And one of the things about New Thought, and that it does well and is unique, is its metaphysical interpretation of the stories. In other words, how they apply to us today. What do they mean? And they're not just stories that took place, many, many years ago, but we look at how we can interpret them to say, how can they make my life better? And I had an instructor, and I was in seminary, that said that, well, if you ever run out of material to talk about, you can always go back to a Bible story. And I needed that this week, because it's rich with material. And I was talking to someone, he said, why don't you do a series on the parables of Jesus? And I said, I think I'll do that one day, but not today. Today I want to look at just a little segment that's in the Hebrew Bible, or sometimes called the Old Testament, usually. And it's from 2 Kings. And in the first 10 chapters, and there's a story about two characters, Elijah and Elisha. And they're prophets. And prophets meant that they were the mouthpieces for God. They were the spokespersons for this presence. And metaphysically or symbolically, they were the forerunners of Jesus the Christ. And they had come along during a period of time when Israel had a great deal of material prosperity, but it was in spiritual decline. And so they were charged with really saving this genuine spirituality that they were losing during that time. And it came a point that Elijah, who was the elder leader at the time, and he was the mentor of the younger Elisha. And Elijah received some instructions from the still small voice, and he was supposed to anoint Elijah to be the leading prophet. And he was to succeed and follow Elijah because Elijah realized that his work had been done. His purpose had been complete. And Elijah asked Elijah what he could do for him before he moved on, before he eventually transitioned into his next assignment in this dimension, in this world, or this other world. And it says in that scriptural reference, he said, let a double dose of your spirit be upon me. This is Elijah talking to Elijah. He said, I want a double dose of your spiritual consciousness. And I see your oneness with God. I want that same spirit to be in me. He said he wanted a double shot of his consciousness, his awareness. I'd like to say that he said, I wanted to be a fool for God. I thought about that because I remember being at a mall years ago, and there was a guy walking around with a sandwich board. It was people have a sandwich board, they're advertising something in a mall, some insurance to buy or anything. And this guy, I don't know if he was working for any particular store there because I found out he wasn't, but he had on the front of the sandwich board, I'm a fool. I'm a fool. And I'm thinking, well, is this some sort of punishment for him, that he had to go walk around and say he's a fool? And so he's walking up and down, and then I looked on the back of the sandwich board, and it said, I'm a fool for God. Whose fool are you? Who are you working for? So I say that because what we really want is a double dose of the Spirit of living God. We want to be the full expression of this present in every aspect of our life. Now, as I mentioned before, that sometimes over our life, we may have given God human qualities. It says that we're made in the image and likeness and out of God, which means that we have the qualities of God. But sometimes we return the favor and we try to give God our qualities, human qualities, things that change. Particularly as we read some of the old stories in the Hebrew Bible, the writers gave human qualities to God. Because one day God would be doing one thing, the next thing he would do something else, third day he would do something else. And if you looked at it, you look, my God, that guy has a multiple personality disorder. Forgetting that all of the ancient scriptures really are talking about, I mentioned last week, an unfoldment of human consciousness. Because it was written by human beings. There's some good stuff in there, but it still came through a human consciousness. So they go from a sense of separation from the divine. And as we go through it, we come to a point where we become more aware that we are one with God. And that this presence is always changeless. It's the same yesterday, today, and forever, as those stories tell us. And then we realize that our role is to know when to let go of our human way of being and let the water carry us. Let that spiritual essence carry us, as that song that Larry was singing in that video tells us to do. So we may ask this question: How do we do this? It's not always easy to let go and let God. We say that so glibly. We say, let go, let God. Of course, there's no definite how-tos to do this. Sometimes I hear people say, I took that class. I got the spiritual stuff down. I read that book. I got it all together now. So there's no definitive how-tos because it's a process. But there are strategies and there are intentions that we can do to get to that point where we realize that oneness and we begin to let go of the shore. We begin to let that presence guide us. And one of the things that we can do is to begin when our day starts, when we wake up and it's morning, and we have a sense of expectancy of the good. Now, some days, I don't know about you, I wake up and I say, instead of saying, good morning, God, and I'm feeling good, I wake up some days and I don't know about you, and I say, good God, it's morning. What's going to go wrong today? Had one of those days yesterday, you might be saying. And we begin to use this spiritual faculty, this law of mind in action, sometimes to our detriment. Understand that when we begin to get with that kind of intention, with that kind of expectation, we understand that God, this presence, this force, this energy, is always answering our deepest belief. And if we ask, well, how? Good God, it's morning and it's going to turn out to be a horrible day. Spirit says, okay, if you believe that, I'll show you all the different ways things can go wrong. But no, we don't want to do that. We want to feel, we want to sense and declare that this is the day that the great law of life has made, or the Lord. If you know that old song, if you went back to the old school, I was thinking about this, and when he said, this is the day that the Lord had made, that the Lord has made. I like that song now. I didn't really like it that much years ago, but I kind of understand that it's setting an intention that we're really beginning to realize that it's a magnificent day because we're in it. And then when we begin to get that expectancy of the good, we want to stop at the noon hour. And we want to contemplate our oneness with God and absolutely declare we are one with the Spirit. And then we begin to release ourselves in that silent moment. And we begin at the end of the day, when we begin to retire for the day, get a sense of gratitude. We review our day, noticing all the blessings that have been given us. All the blessings. It doesn't matter how small they may seem to be. We just kind of look for the blessings, and we begin to get into an energy field where we begin to see the good, bless the good, and suddenly we're beginning to walking embodiment of that good, and something happens. And what happens? We realize that energy flows where our attention goes. And our attention now has been on the God qualities, the good. And we let flow the water and let the water carry us, so to speak. And we find that we come into a flow of life rather than seeking to make things happen with our own might, with our own power, with our own intelligence, with our own education, our own life that we think we have separate from the presence of God. We're carried by that spiritual presence into that flow, where the blessings have already been given. I always like to say, before they call, I've already answered you. The good is already there. And the things that we think we're praying for, we begin to see that they have already been given us. And what we need to do is get into that consciousness where we receive it, that we accept it. We see the blessings that have already been given. Sometimes I think that Spirit of the living God would be saying, I've given everything to you. You just have to claim it. It'll be okay when you get here, I guess. They may have to go through their stuff, but it's right here. And when we begin to understand that, we come to the realization that every demand, every challenge that has been placed upon us in our human experience is not given to the human part of us to solve. Every demand that has been given to us is given to that divine presence. We call it that Christ presence within us that contains all the good, the prosperity, the joy, the forgiveness, the beauty, the strength, the endurance, the patience. It's there. So it's not up to us to do those things. But we realize that every challenge or demand we find coming to us during the course of our day is a demand upon that invincible spirit within us. And because we are in the flow of it, we can begin to relax in that flow. And we begin to witness how God is going to show up in our life, how it's going to take care of whatever seems to be happening in our life experience. This is letting go of the shore and allow the Spirit to carry us. And we can augment that. We can make it even better when we look for evidence of God's blessing in our life, in the life of our planet, in our life of the fellows around us. And as we do, we train ourselves to look for the evidence and of joyful expectation. Sometimes people have an anxious anticipation, not a joyful expectation of the good. So we want to look for the good. We look for the evidence of that good in and as our life. You know, as it says I think in Matthew, one of those scriptures, it says, ask and it shall be given. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door shall be open. And if we come with that attitude, we'll begin to see that good. But oftentimes we've been trained to look for the problems and how to solve them. What's wrong with life? Sometimes folks wake up and they look for they're going to have to meet with this day. I always say, if you're looking for a rainy day, you'll run into one some way or another. And of course, we exquisitely get trained if we have that mindset to see the negative and the life of our fellows in that same way. And we may sometimes try to run from it, but it's going to be there if that's what we're seeking, or we're complaining about it. As I like to say, I think Bob Marley said that complaining is when we are actually making an affirmation or a declaration that says, I can't see God. I can't see God. I can't see the presence of God. That's what a complaint is. Nobody here does that, but you know people that do. I think our charge is to claim that the earth, as that statement in the Bible says, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. And to claim that the heavens, which is ever expanding good, are declaring the glory of the living God. So that even the firmament, and the firmament is really us, the expression of this presence, is showing the handiwork of this infinite presence. And then we begin to experience, expect, and look for the evidence of God's good. Let go of the shore. You know, when we begin to flow, we look out into the world and we will see that even though sometimes the news has a particular slant as to what's going on the planet, what's happening in our world, it'll bring to our attention, how bad things are. But I always say don't look at the news unless you really pray it up, because it'll bring us a sense of separation that invades and pervades our human experience. But when we begin to get into that flow, we let go of that shore. We move ourselves into the awareness that God is all that there is. And we do see that when we see rightly. And we'll be reminded that everything that has been going on, according to the news reports, has been going on for a long time. Though it seems like they just happened. These conflicts and rumors of conflicts, the separation, the polarization that we see sometimes, didn't just happen because they've been reported on the news in some way. They've been going on since ancient times. As someone said, or asked me, well, why is there so much fighting and conflict? And then in the old days, they would say, well, let me tell you a story about Cain and Abel. It's been part of the human experience for thousands of years now. And when we begin to look for the evidence of God's good, however, we'll begin to see, because of all the stuff that's been brought into our attention, all the stuff that is going on, we begin to see that it's brought to the surface so that we can deal with it. That which has been swept under the rug can be brought to the light. and hold those who are holding the high watch to do that. And that's us. You know, if we have a crisis in our life, in our world, it means it's an opportunity to see how God is going to show up in our life. You know, our board is coming together to do the quantum work together, and I always say that I'm realizing it's really to help us understand how to convert what we think is against us and realize that it's always for us. You know, it's like the man who was born blind. Jesus said he was born blind in order to show the glory of God, to call forth the glory of God. And we're here to do the same in our life. And realize that the peace and the love and the harmony and the symmetry of God's order is there, even in the midst of the challenges and the difficulties. And our role as people who are awakening to this presence, awakening in our hearts, is an understanding that we are being ushered into a magnificent birth, a new awareness. And whenever there is a new birth of any kind that's a change from where we are, sometimes what comes before it is a sense of negativity. Sometimes there's a constriction and an expansion that goes on. And it's not always fun and games. It's not always easy. So we realize that we are here to grow and unfold, to express more of the presence of the Spirit of living God. So things have been going on since ancient times, and they're being brought to our surface today so we can see from the higher point of view. Let's realize that when we begin to do that, we begin to grow from God's glory to greater glory. We'll begin to see all the stuff is there for us to expand, to grow, to develop. That nothing in this planet is wasted. Nothing. So all the stuff that we may have thought is against us, we realize it's for our better good. It's for our good. So even the crisis that we seem to be going on, maybe in our country, in our world, that appears to be unsolvable, that's a message from the Spirit of the living God. There's more in you to express, to reach deep within you in order to express that deep power of the presence of God. They're being brought forth for that reason. I think about this a lot, and I say, because that's the only thing that really keeps me going. I got to say that there's something there for us. There's something that's calling us deeper. There's something saying, pull out that which is within you, because that which is within you is far more powerful than anything or any else that's happening in our world. God is calling for us. So as I was saying, that our role as people who are waking up, we're waking up. You know, as the Buddha said, that when he was asked, who are you? And he said, I am awake. And we're here to usher in that new birth. We're here to usher in that new age. We're here to usher in those new possibilities. We're on the stage of our own development as a human species where now is the time. We are the ones. We can't look for other people to do it. Sometimes, we say, well, who's going to do this? And we got to realize, hey, ain't nobody coming back to save us. Nope. But us. We got to do it. We got to be the ones. So we want to get into the flow. I kind of went off on a tangent right there. But, sometimes that happens. We want to get carried away by the Spirit, where we no longer look and see things from the low vibration, but that high way of seeing the world. And we will see something magnificent is waiting to be expressed through our life. And this magnificence is happening everywhere. Anyway, as it states in that story, Elisha wanted the blessing from Elijah. And Elijah simply said, if you could see me in my glory, and my majesty. That will mean you have attained a consciousness of right sight. And that double dose that you are asking for will be yours. So our work is to see that I'm waking up with expectancy, stopping at noon and catching that silence where all the presence of God is, and then have a word of gratitude at the end of the day where we realize that we are always free in the spirit when we make that our choice. But silence is the key. I think that's the number one thing that we can age in this planet. I think if everybody took a few moments of silence every day for 5 minutes a day at the same time, we'd transform the world in a moment because we catch where all the power is. You know, there's a French thinker by Blaise Pascal. And Blaise said that all of humanity's problems stem from the inability to sit alone in a room for any length of time. Sometimes, you know, in the human part, we jump up quickly to do something and make it happen from our own understanding. And Pascal's declaration speaks of the busyness and clutter that not only happens in our outer world, but within our inner world as well. And I think to have a transforming and trusting experience of the grace of God and get carried away by the Spirit, we must be practicing attending to that still small voice. You know, sometimes we have in life that the first thing in action, the first thing spiritually when that comes up is probably no action at all. You know, perhaps our motto should be when all heck is breaking loose. People, you know, some people say, don't just sit there, do something. Maybe we should do something different. When we hear ourselves say, don't just sit there, just sit there. Just be for a little while. Allow that presence to take us over. We want to catch that and realize there's a natural ecstasy of simply being alive, simply being in this presence, a natural happiness that comes from an understanding our divine origin, our spiritual roots, where we're coming from spiritually. And that we're not touching that and being indoctrinated or initiated into simply the three-dimensional world, the material world only, where we seek ecstasy outside of ourselves. Because often, in my own life, I realize that the only thing that leads to is our addictions of all kinds, not just substance, but any kind of addiction. Could be food, could be driving fast. I do that sometimes. That's why Jesus said to the woman at the well, if you drink of this water, you will thirst again. But if you drink of the water that I have, you shall never thirst. He was talking about that spiritual water. He was talking about the unchanging qualities of God, where there's nothing but true fulfillment. And that cannot be attained by the external, temporary experiences in life. Because the moment we get a semblance of that temporary, counterfeit joy in the external world, we lose it. We have unfulfillment. Emily Cady, in her text, Lessons in Truth, says that every person believes he or she is in bondage to the flesh and things of the flesh. She's talking about the temporary. And all suffering, all the stuff that we go through is a result of that belief. But there's an inner ecstasy, an inner glow that comes from realizing that God is the source of all good and genuine fulfillment. And when we rest in God, that sense of fulfillment shows up. I had mentioned earlier in my life when I had nothing in life and I had to come to the realization that everything I needed was within me, was the best times of my life. Hopefully the better times are still coming. But I realized at that moment, I needed nothing outside of me to be fulfilled. Just the need to feel my oneness with the force, let go of attachments, let go of the shore, and be carried away by the Spirit. So I've been talking a lot, so let me kind of sum up a little bit. We're talking about retreating from the world of effects, retreating from the material viewpoint, And it comes not only just in things, but in beliefs that we hold on to. I often say that if you want to lighten your load, sometimes just lighten your belief system a little bit. Let's go of something. And then something magical happens. As we listen to the music or watch the videos, we realize that the artist captures something that's been in the ethers even before time began. It's another way that God is revealing itself. It's already been done, it's already fulfilled, but someone had to be courageous enough. Someone had to be patient enough. Someone had to be talented enough, still enough, obedient enough to simply reveal it. So understand that within all of us right now is the capacity to make a major difference on the place we call planet Earth. That right now within all of us, sometimes we may think that we're a small, insignificant being. Maybe we've been taught that theologically. Someone may have mistakenly told you are simply the dust of the earth, amounting to little or nothing. But I bless them because I know they were doing the best they could with what they have, and they were mistaken. They were doing the best they could with what they knew at that time, and it may have served us at that moment, and if so, beautiful. We don't curse it. We just step on it like a ladder to another level of our development. We were made in the image and likeness of God. We have divine origins within us. They're timeless. And it's looking for you and me to reveal his majesty and his glory, to be carried away by it. And when we do that, we stand with all the ancient seers of old and say, I know that the kingdom of heaven is within my heart. We can stand in the awareness and then witness these great jewels of greatness and allow them to pour forth through us. And people will watch us and say, wow, you did that in your life? And we might sheepishly say, well, yes, I did. But then we'll ultimately realize and say, with the Spirit of the living God, I realized that everything was possible. As it says, with God, all things are possible. And that's what we allow to come into our life. So we start with that expectancy. We look for the good. We become still. And we catch that within us that can carry us forward. We let go of that shore. And as we look for the evidence of good, a new training will kick in. And we'll look at ourselves and our world and our communities, and we'll begin to see the beauty that has been wrought by this presence. We'll stop seeing differences. We'll see how the lines on the map were just a reinforcement of a sense of separation and not wrought by the presence of God. And we will look at that wonderful light that shines through every child of God. And as Elijah says, you'll receive a double dose of the Spirit. And we will be anointed in the work that is specifically chosen for us. Don't let anybody fool us. We have a purpose for being here on the planet. And we are here to be carried away by this infinite spirit that we call God. And when we allow ourselves to do that, we won't have to be worried about catching a virus or moving on to the next dimension in any way, shape, or form, because we will not leave a second before our purpose is complete. We won't. When we're carried away by this spiritual presence, regardless of what the doctor may say or may have told us, regardless what name or label they may have given you, regardless of what your finances may look like at this particular moment, when we allow ourselves to be carried away by the Spirit, we will not leave a moment before our purpose is fulfilled. And when our purpose is fulfilled, we'll be more than happy to go to any dimension we're called to go to, because we will realize there's only life, life, and more life, no matter what. More life. And we will live that presence always, being more true to ourselves, living that fearless life, that immortal life in this instant. So I said I was going to end, so let me end with this. Let the Spirit of the living God have its way with you. Let go of the shore, as Larry was saying. and then just get carried away. God bless. Peace out. Next week I'll be here and we'll be talking about the widening the circle of compassion. And as Reverend Deborah said, we will have live music. So tell your friends, neighbors, people you like, people you don't like, don't matter. Come on down. They will become friends after a while. At this time, we have an opportunity for those online to give and support this consciousness that we're seeking to spread. And you can give your gift, your love offering, by texting SLC Love to 44321. That's SLC Love to 44321. Or you can go to our website, slcworld.org, click the Donate tab, and you can give in other ways, including by mail. And with that, I invite those who are present who are giving to prayerfully raise symbolically your gifts, your offerings to the heavens, which is always expanding good. And know that you're in the flow. So whether you're giving today, giving online, giving by EFTs, electronic funds transfer, it is in the flow of a principle that says we can never outgive the presence of God, and whatever we give comes back to us many, many times over. So with that, let us affirm our offertory statement together. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. Thank you, God. And thank you, God. Letting Go. That's an original from Lurie. I guess she wrote it, filmed it. Looking forward to her being present in the flesh, but next best thing is to have her spirit here in that video. We had this time bless those who have supported this community with their giving, knowing it to support us from moving from where we are to where we can be, to be that vessel and opportunity for others to help move them to their highest expression of their divine. So we bless those tithes, those offerings, those givings in such a way that we know they will multiply for the benefit of the good. And as anyone is lifted up, we all are lifted up. We also bless those who have left the prayers in the prayer box. And whatever challenge that they may be facing, whatever problem they may be coming across in their life, we start with the expectancy and the realization that the Spirit of the living God already has the answer. And it may be beyond our human understanding, but we know that answer is there. And our job and their job is simply to raise their energy, their vibration, their sense of who and what they are, to be one with the one. And when we come one with the one, our seeming problems dissolved into the nothingness from which they have come. So we let go, let God. And as we do, we are guided and directed in the right and perfect ways. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen. At this time, as we move to the end of our service, let us affirm our prayer for protection and take them in as if they're the first time you've actually heard them. And you're just doing it by rote, but you're realizing that this is the truth. Let's say those words together. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, I am, and all is well. And that is the truth. Let's now join in as we sing our peace song and reaffirm those words that we just spoke in our prayer for protection.
There